So we're in the home accessibility segment, working also with the home elevators and the stair lifts. I'm the business excellence manager, so I have responsibility for pricing, rebate management, and business improvement projects.
Yeah, I'm Daniele. Obviously, I was just talking before, I cannot hide my accent. I'm Italian, but obviously working in the UK. And we do operate as a company across the globe. I find very interesting how I was able to make my life easier in a way. And in a way transform also finance, what we were discussing yesterday with Mark, from reading the news to almost making the news, and which is the reason why we got this new position in the company, which is Excellence Program Manager, which means a lot of things. But I think it means that how finance is little by little really affecting the business and driving the business through some good decisions, especially starting from rebates. In fact, it's very strange to see a finance director discussing very happily about rebates. So I think it's a takeaway for me, and it's good to talk about rebates as long as they are structured and they are driving good business and profitable business.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a couple questions, and then I'm going to let each of you come up with a question, and I'll ask a few more because I know I've seen hands already coming. First, let's talk about pricing and rebates. Chicken or egg question they say a lot of. Can you just tell me your experience with it, how you incorporate the two, how you look at the two?
Yeah, sure. So for me, pricing, I'm a big fan of the value-based pricing. So also looking at like willingness to pay, right? And particularly in business-to-business transactions, willingness to pay, you need to try to find the highest price point possible, but because it's business to business and that customer's going to come back and buy again, you need to also leave a bit at the top, right? So that they're getting a good deal as well. So for me, pricing and rebates, they go hand in hand, because when you think about willingness to pay, and then you're talking about the price reflecting that willingness, that's usually for a quantity. Let's just say it's for quantity 1. But if you could lower the price by an amount X, and then suddenly the customer's going to say, oh, I want quantity 50, quantity 100 now, then you're starting to find out more about the willingness to pay for different quantities. And the beautiful thing about rebates is it allows you to effectively reduce price to get more quantities, so help your customers grow as well, without having any of the risk. Because if the quantity isn't hit, then you simply aren't paying it out, so you've removed the risk from the transaction. So for me, pricing and rebates, they go hand in hand.
Also, before I alluded to the fact that they made my life easier, is really when we go and talk to customers, one thing we wanted to avoid at all costs before was talking about pricing. Now the first thing we want to is telling them, well, prices are increasing. Luckily, we give you a rebate on the back of it. So I think it allows us to also channel very good discussions with them, strategic discussion to be able to lock them in the long term. With, of course, all what's happening in the world with higher pricing and increasing over time. That's not an issue as long as you have a structured rebate and commitment with them that you agreed from the beginning.
And so let's talk about that a little more. One, how do you create a customized pricing and rebate per customer? You have a lot of them, by the way, a lot of homes with elevators. And then how do you try to ensure a little fairness across, the same volume or bands, and then how do you bring that all together?
Yeah, so a lot of customization in pricing, it's all to do with segmentation, right? And really simply, we know that the price of anything is different in 2 different countries. So a really easy way to have a segment is through geography. And then you often have different affordability, different willingness to pay in different countries. So we get also slightly different cost to serve, but then generally speaking that you will have different prices in different countries. That's just the natural way of the world. But with the rebates, the customization of the rebates then is all about trying to help the customer grow, trying to stimulate the customer's demand as well. So for us, it's about sitting down with the customer and understanding, okay, if it's a monthly agreement and you get the credit note back on the account each month, does that help with credit limit problems? So is there some extra support we get from a monthly agreement instead of from a quarterly agreement? Would they prefer to make it a multi-product rebate and then let's rebate the total revenues instead of the units and things like this? So it's really about customizing rebates because we're getting closer to customers to understand how we can best support them and their growth.
Yeah, I have nothing to add, and I think discussing yesterday and today as well, I think all of us are operating through rebates, and I think there's nothing more to share from my side than I was really pleased to see, especially in Enable, the numbers of different mechanisms that we were put through, because we started at the beginning by having one single mechanism in Excel, units monthly. That's it. That's our alphabet. And then when we started implementing Enable within 48 hours, then we an entire world opened, and now we are operating really growth compared to last year with different products in different countries. So it's really fully comprehensive, I think. We do have a lot to discuss from A to Z in terms of good discussions.
Did you say 48 hours? You implemented Enable?
Yeah,
I didn't even know that.
I heard yesterday that apparently we were the fastest customer. Yeah, between looking or discovering Enable on internet, okay, signing the contract, and then get 36, I think, project implemented into Enable.
Holy cow! Okay.
So I think also the importance of understanding the value and having a purpose between behind the project you are doing. Mm-hmm. So it's not for the sake of like putting something from Excel into a software that we needed. We needed something that helped us to drive the business, mm-hmm, with the right person in place, mm-hmm, with strategically looking at pricing, mm-hmm, and discounts as well. I said, this is the right moment to do that. Let's do that because we really see value of that. But we had, from the beginning, very clear idea of what we wanted. We didn't wait.
How did you come up with that? How did you say, okay, forget the tool for a sec. But you said, okay, here's the business this is, here's how we're going to roll out, here's what I'm going to put. You had one mechanism before, and now you have lots. Like, how did you come up with the project plan and the goals and everything else?
Yeah, it's something brings me back to when Cengiz started the role. And I came up with this article, I don't remember from where, it was talking about margin expansion plan. Okay. And within the margin expansion plan, one of the pillars was rebates. And at the time, we just stopped rebates because I think Andrew said at the beginning, rebates were, if they are not structured the right way, you do have companies who are running rebates not knowing how much they're accruing, and they're completely out of control, which is also the reason why we stopped for a period. But then we understood the value behind them. We just didn't have the structure, the right people to do that. And once we had them, then we quickly looked through internet. And I think you guys came up as best in class.
Google search? You found us on Google search?
Pretty sure, yes.
Oh, geez.
Yes.
I got to call my sales team. Okay. I thought that was a perfect spot to stop for a sec. If there are a question or two in the audience, I have a bunch more, but I want to give someone a chance to ask a question here. Sean's going to run middle. Someone in the back ask a question next.
I don't know your business, so do you sell to resellers or do you sell to customers who then sell on into the marketplace? And if so, how have you expanded this program through them, and how successful have you been?
Yes. Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, so we sell to resellers. Yeah, and then I think the real value in rebates comes as also it's a great conversational piece for sales team to talk with customers then about the targets, right? So how do you even get to the quantities? What's the forecast of the reseller? How can we then get behind those forecasts with a most competitive rebate scheme to help facilitate that growth.
And I think also the next step, I think, is an interesting question where we should ask our business customers, how do they operate throughout their own organization, and how do they take advantage of those initiatives we are launching. I think is the next step, valuable question. I think we are thinking everything we can in order to know also how our business customers are using them throughout their organization.
Is there another question before I go back to mine? I want to follow up on that a little bit. As a manufacturer here, how are you looking at it in terms of like where you, now that you have this in place and it was done in 36 hours, wow. Where are you now starting to look for other opportunities where this can help you create more value for your customers and for you?
Yeah, for me, two topics. One is make sure we are hitting, or from the beginning we are targeting profitable customers, so we are sure that every single program that is implemented in a profitable way. So we know by fact that if we give away rebates, or if we pay rebates, we pay them to profitable dealers. And then the other one is the question for me is how do we measure success? So we were talking about today, this morning also, how do we make sure that what we do is really done for the right purpose, for the right customers as well? How do we measure success? How do we make sure we can take advantage of that and really stimulate the right dealers and the right customers as well? So I think is those two main topics. And then why not extending these also to not only monetary rebates, but also to rewarding customers through other kind of incentives which are not really binded into monetary terms. I think it's interesting to know how do we pay back customer, not only with money, but we can pay them back with something else, free transport or free parts for free.
And Cengiz, maybe you have a I hear a lot from a lot of people talk about, people are giving away rebates. They don't know if that puts them in the red or the black or close or margin. Like he talked about making sure it was on a profitable transaction. How did you do that before? How did you think about that now?
Yeah, for me, my experience would be to say it's just a simple scenario analysis. So you could say, okay, you've got a customer that's been running at last 12 months, let's say 100 units. If without rebate, they're going to do pretty much the same again. It's what they've done for the last 3 years. But the salesperson has made the communication report and they say, all right, actually we're only 50% share of wallet. Then we can say, right, what do we need to do to be the other 50%? Usually it's price. How can we lower the price without taking the risk? And then we get to rebate. So then we need to say, okay, right, well, scenario one, it's going to be 100 units, same again. Scenario two, with rebate, and this is the rebate schedule, this is what we pay out, this is the extra units, and this is the extra profit. Well, that has to be bigger, right, overall, for overall profitability, than what you're paying out. So it's just making those calculations to give the rigor to then go back to the salesperson and say, this is a great opportunity, these are the parameters, try and get it in these parameters, and then it's good for the salesperson, good for the customer, gives them the firepower for growth as well, and good for us.
Yeah. I hear a lot about sales teams and finance teams and rebate teams all working in silos, like Andrew talked about. Can you talk a little bit about how much you share with your sales team, how a system or your new initiative is now having your teams work together and what the result is?
Yeah, so we try to collaborate with our salespeople as much as possible, coming from the finance function. And I think really it's about any interaction with your colleagues. What are you going to give them? So if we go to our meetings, we will have run the analysis, run the scenarios. We've got models in Excel we can play with and drop numbers into, and we can do all of that live. And then in that moment, we're giving to the salesperson some firepower that they can take into a negotiation. And then suddenly they're going to want to then check back in and say, oh, I've got this idea, I've got this opportunity. And the value add of finance is to give that quantitative portion skills to help the salespeople get the best outcome for businesses.
Yeah, it's empowering salespeople, basically empowering, giving not that a sales tool, but giving them a strategic tool they can use. I think is one of the main challenges for the next year for me to empower them to use the tool as a strategic element rather than just a sales tool or more discount they can give away. But in order to do that, we need to learn from them from a customer experience and customer approach perspective. And I think they also need to be able to be open to listen to us as well.
And how is that balanced, not just with your sales team, but with pricing and rebates and now knowing the true cost? How's that helped you and margins and revenue and overall profitability?
It did because as a matter of fact, we grew over the time in a profitable way. So that means that we stimulated the right dealers in the right time as well. There was no other way than doing that with such a price increase that is all over the place. By let's say having a competitive advantage in a way for us to be able to still engage with customers. I think it gave us a lot of opportunities to start good discussions with them and to increase share of wallets.
Same?
Yeah, it's just about having the transparency across the teams and then also the transparency with the customer about those targets and what do they need to do to get to the next level.
Sales team engagement and collaboration, especially around customers, and there's a question I get from a lot of people. So let me pause here and I'll look in the audience. I know there's lots of manufacturers. Colleen loves salespeople wherever she is. If anyone has a question,
Hi, thank you. The easiest way for me to get this to work would be to bring my customers and my sales guys in this room today. But the interesting point for you is, when you reached out to your customer base, was it from a finance perspective to finance, or was it your sales guys that were talking to the supply chain? What was the most successful route?
So it's sales reaching out, and then for us, it's I always see finance. It's a bit more backstage, so we're not customer facing every day. So if we can better prepare our salespeople, better equip them and empower them, then they're going to be in a better position to reach out, to pitch the rebate, to then in the end use it as a performance management tool.
Okay, thanks.
anyone else want to ask about sales team, customer collaboration? Pattern, one question at a time. Okay, good to hear. I'd love to hear just a little bit more. You talked at the beginning, you're on a spreadsheet and you knew you needed technology and a plan. Forget rebate technology for a sec. Just how do you think of technology overall in your department? What was the catalyst for change? And then how do you see it going forward?
As I said, the different type of mechanism. If you need to develop something like that in Excel, you need to be like highly educated Excel individual to do that. And having all those mechanisms that works for you in the system, that's a piece of technology that I think helped us a lot to just open discussions and then increase transparency as well on and opportunities for differentiating our sales as well. So I think the different type of mechanism, the way they work and are applied, simplifies a lot my life, but also the controller life when happens to calculate them. That's for me, that's the main advantage of technology in that case. Yeah.
You feel the same?
Yeah, I think there's you get a certain sense of security from using a dedicated system. It's systemized, it's got the record of the transactions, it's got the audit trail. you don't get that in Excel, and actually someone can go in and delete something, or a formula doesn't quite copy across correctly every time, and then suddenly the accrual's wrong, and then the customer complains, and that's a problem.
Yeah, just today it happened something, we got like a duplicate of rebates that were overlapping with one that was already implemented 2 months ago, and enabled, pretty much looking through enable, it flagged up that we had a duplicate for it, overlapping with the same period. So we went back to the salesman and asked for explanations on that. And I think if you do that through or outside enable, you wouldn't be able to see duplicates or anything like that. So it simplifies life. It's also secure, also the audit trial as well.
What was the salesperson's explanation on that? I gave him double rebates.
I think when you do have many rebates with many customers with different type of mechanism, this is what we were talking about, empowering people, understanding what they are doing exactly. Is also, you do have multiple periods overlapping with each other, and then a new financial year that is not in sync with the calendar year. So there are many different reasons why it could happen. But of course, the more you have, the more chance for making mistakes you have. So as long as you have a secured way of doing that, I think is helping.
Okay. I'm gonna go back. We're gonna wrap up here. I'm gonna come back to you with one question, just in terms of recommendations or suggestions for pricing and rebating technology. But if there's anyone in the audience to ask a final question, Mark, I don't know if you're allowed to ask questions. Okay. Is it an accountant question?
No, he made a great point.
Okay.
He said earlier on that they were stopping doing rebates. So in your opinion, there is a differentiation between a good rebate and a bad rebate.
Yeah.
What is the difference?
For me, if they are not data-driven, it's a risk for the company. So I think you have to take risks, but they have to be measurable risk, and you need to know, or they need to be backed by data. You need to know upfront if something is profitable and what level of risk you take. I think the way it was done before or without success is the fact that without empowering the sales force of having not a sales tool but a strategic tool, is just giving away discounts, which all of a sudden became hidden discounts, which all of a sudden made people lost in a way. And that's the last thing you want to do within the finance department. For me, that's the main point. Yeah.
You ought to have a good segregation of duties so that the salesperson doesn't create their own rebate and implement it and check it and pay it out. Imagine that's the worst case. Start to put the finance people as the creators and the checkers and the payouts.